Well, I'd planned to sail to Hampton, Virginia, but the wind forecast is less than perfect. And in general, we got in the forecast next several days of very lousy weather. Strong winds, passing rain showers, and so forth. So I've decided to put into the relatively well-protected Jackson Creek, where lies the Deltaville Boat Yard. And there I'll be able to get a marina pass so I can use the facilities, receive mail, and use the courtesy car to get to the grocery store. So a pretty good place to hang out and wait for better weather. So the culprit is a large low-pressure system that's just swirling and hanging off the east coast and bringing all this blustery, rainy, miserable weather. It's forecast to hang around for the next several days. Okay, so let's talk about how we might do a direct passage from Hampton, Virginia, which is right about here, to Key West, Florida, which is all the way down here. Now, if we're going to go direct, that means we'll probably arrive in Key West about 10 days to 2 weeks later. So we definitely want to wait, as with our passages to the Caribbean, we want to wait till after November 1st. And that is contingent on, it's after November 1st, and there are no tropical cyclones or any tropical cyclones forecast at the time. And the National Hurricane Center will forecast out to 5 days. So after November 1st, and the National Hurricane Center is saying no tropical cyclone expected for the next 5 days. Usually then it's a green light. The chances of a cyclone forming are pretty small at that point. Because once you get into November, the Atlantic starts cooling down to the point where cyclone formation tropical cyclone formation can no longer occur. There's basically 3 routes we could go. One is to stay inside of the Gulf Stream, come down around Cape Hatteras, and just follow the contour of the coast, staying on the northwest side of the Gulf Stream. We don't want to get in the Gulf Stream, of course, because it's running against us at anywhere between about 2 and 4 knots, which would really slow us down. So we don't want to do that. And we could come down, stay inside the Gulf Stream, and go all the way to Key West. There's 2 problems with this route. One is that it means staying in cold water. The water on the northwest side of the Gulf Stream is much colder than on the southeast side. And since we're doing this in November, it means putting up with several days, even a week of cold weather, sailing in cold weather and cold water, which is not very pleasant. But the bigger problem with doing the passage this way is that as we get down around West Palm Beach, Florida, is the Gulf Stream gets so close to the Florida coast that you basically have to sail within about a mile of the coast to stay out of the current. And that means sailing within a mile of the coast for a distance of about 300 miles, 200 or 300 miles. And as a solo sailor, that's really not even possible, because I cannot go for several days sailing within a mile of the coast, because it means I'll have to be awake the entire time. I can't trust my wind vane while I go down and take a nap. Being so close to the coast, I could wake up with a big crunch and find myself on the beach. So I don't think that passage looks very good. A second possibility is to head out as if we're heading to the Caribbean, go southeast, cross the Gulf Stream, get into the nice warm water, and get to about 74 degrees west. So we go southeast and get to about here somewhere, and then just sail due south. And we'll come down just east of San Salvador Island, go through the Crooked Island Passage, and then through the Old Bahama Channel, which I did last year, and go along the south side of Key Sal, and then cross the Gulf Stream again to Key West. And that's a possibility. The only thing I don't like about that passage, I mentioned this last time, when I went through the Old Bahama Channel here, my only fear is getting caught in a strong northerly, getting a very strong cold front come off the east coast. And with very strong northerly winds, and this Old Bahama Channel is not that wide, and then you've got the reef-strewn coast of Cuba just right under your lee there. And that I don't like. I don't like the possibility of having gale force winds driving me up on a reef-strewn coast right under my lee. So that's the only thing. So that's the one reason against taking this route. Although it'd probably be fine, and as long as if I watch my weather before I go through, probably that would be suitably safe. But let's look at possibility number 3, and this is the one I'm presently leaning toward, which is same deal. We'll head southeast across the Gulf Stream, and then again drop due south, and then gradually begin arcing south-southwesterly and come down through the Providence Channel right here. And I did that one 2 years ago. Go through the Northwest Providence Channel, and then we'd have to hug the Great Bahama Bank here for a little while, going past Bimini. And if I recall, well, we'll look at this in a minute from passage weather, but there's not too much current if you stay right along the Great Bahama Bank here. And then again, drop south-southwest, just staying out of the Gulf Stream, go on the north side of Key Sal, and then back across the Gulf Stream to Key West. And distance-wise, whether we go through Crooked Island, Old Bahama Channel, or through the Northwest Providence, it works out to about the same distance, roughly 1,000 miles. So let's take a look at the pilot charts here. Here we are, November, in the North Atlantic. As we could see, around the mid-Atlantic there, in November, the most prevalent winds are from the north to the west, and that's good because we want to go southeast. And generally the strategy is to leave after a cold front, use the northwester, jump across the Gulf Stream. Then as we work our way down south here toward the Bahamas, then the prevailing winds tend to be more north and east. And as you can see, as we get down to the Bahamas here, its prevailing winds are north and east. And that's fine, because as we go through the Providence Channel, we're heading west, so either north or east winds are fine. And then we would turn due south, in which case north or east winds are still fine. And then jumping across the Gulf Stream to Key West, Florida, as long as they are not too strong out of the northeast, we can jump across the Gulf Stream. And so that should be fine. So let's take a look at the Gulf Stream in a little more detail as we approach the Florida coast and Florida Keys from the east, coming down through the Bahamas. As we can see, south of 26 north, anywhere east of 79 west, we would expect very little current. And when we get south of about 2530, anywhere east of about 7930, we should not expect too much contrary current. So let's keep that in mind as we have a detailed look at the chart. Okay, so we come down from the north-northeast and work our way through the Providence Channel. All should be well and good, up to where we reach Great Isaac Island there in the northwest corner of the Great Bahama Bank. And this is where we might start getting into some contrary current. So let's put a waypoint there. So we're about at 2608 north and 79 west. And we still shouldn't have too much current. And last time I sailed that way, right around that area, I did not notice much current. However, as we work our way down toward Bimini, that's where we might start getting into some contrary current. Last time when I jumped across to Miami, however, I did not notice much current until I got out about into the middle of the Straits of Florida. So that third waypoint was at 2530 north and 7925 west. So from our Gulf Stream chart, we can expect about a knot or so of contrary current there. However, as we work our way south toward Key Sal, there should not be too much current because the Gulf Stream is moving further and further west. So hopefully once we get past Bimini, we will not have to contend with too much contrary current.